After 21 movies, we are finally at the end of the main story for this long-running series that started way back in 2007 with Iron Man. It's been a pretty epic journey. Marvel Studios have achieved something that has never been done before, and made many other studios extremely jealous of their success. Creating a movie series that works as a TV show, but instead of episodes being made on a limited budget, each film gets a whopping $150 million each, or more. All these movies have been very enjoyable for the most part. You get the odd duffer or ones that feel like filler episodes like Thor 2 or Ant-Man and the Wasp, but even though some may feel like they don't really progress the main narrative of the Avengers storyline, they are still watchable in the grand scheme of things. Infinity War was a major success and was well received by critics and the fans. It certainly delivered on its expectations. It had the balls to end on a depressing note, with 50% of the population being wiped out, including many of our favourite superheroes. Thanos was successful in his mission. With Endgame, Marvel has been very careful not to reveal any spoilers or clips that could ruin the film for the fans. With this review, I'm not going to discuss the plot in any detail, or go into any particular moments that would highlight a specific sequence. So it does actually make my job quite difficult, but the aim of this video is just to try and get across how I felt about the movie. To get it out of the way, Endgame is a 5 out of 5 film. It gets full marks for what it achieves and its entertainment value. For a movie that is 3 hours long, it certainly didn't feel like it for me. It's got a clear 3-act structure. The first act does honestly take a bit too long to get going, as the remaining superheroes have to deal with and accept the fallout of Thanos' actions, and have to try and think of ways to correct the past and save their friends and the rest of the population. Once it hits the second act, I was glued to my seat to the very end. Once the end credits rolled, I think like everyone else had to dash out the screen to quickly use the toilet, so I didn't stick around to see if there was any post-credit sequences that may set up another movie. Endgame, to my surprise, really dialed back the action. As with all superhero flicks, the third act is where they're going to really push the epic battle sequences, but the rest of the movie plays it down and focuses on the characters. With less of the Avengers on screen, it does actually benefit the film, as the writers don't have to keep cutting away to other characters that need some screen time to push their storyline. It gives the film an opportunity to breathe, and for the emotional beats to really hit the mark. One of Endgame's strongest aspects is its emotional core. When there is a sad moment, it delivers on all fronts. You'll come out of this movie feeling very emotional. It's sad when it needs to be, and it will also put a big smile on your face. All the Marvel films have a good slice of humour. There are many comedic moments in the film, but I would say less than the others, mainly down to its storyline, and throwing in more jokes would have seemed somewhat inappropriate and mess up the tone, which is pretty well balanced. As many of us over the years have invested in these characters, we've become attached to these superheroes. Like comic book readers over the years, they pick and choose who they gravitate towards and stick with them. For me, I had no interest in Hawkeye, Ant-Man, and had no clue who the Guardians of the Galaxy were before the film came out, but now I love these characters, and I have to thank the movies for that, and the great performances by the actors and the efforts of the filmmakers. As a piece of filmmaking, the visual effects are very impressive. There were no moments for me where I was looking at a wobbly green screen shot. The effects are rendered and animated to a very high level, and the fight sequences were excellently choreographed. The big finale punch-up may not match the epicness of, say, Infinity War, which really set the bar very high, but it is ultimately very satisfying. The big conflict doesn't outstay its welcome, and is perfectly paced. The photography for the most part is very impressive. The film is nicely lit, you don't feel like it's too dark in areas. It doesn't suffer the same problem as Captain Marvel, which had moments in the film where you could barely see what's going on. I would say the Russo brothers don't really make great use of the CinemaScope format for large chunks of the movie. A lot of it's covered in mid-shots and close-ups. This may be very much intentional to make it feel more like a personal piece, but overall the film feels a bit boxed in, so to speak. These are minor nitpicks and don't really detract from its overall qualities. Composer Alan Silvestri returns once again to compose the score. Alan is one of my favourite composers, up there with John Williams and the late Jerry Goldsmith. Silvestri has provided so many great scores over the years, such as Back to the Future, Predator, Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Forrest Gump. The Endgame score has loads of great musical moments with Alan's style stamped all over it. He uses the main theme when it's needed, and when it does turn up, it lifts your spirits. With its change in tone and dealing with a more downbeat storyline, the score reflects that. There's a big push for the music to reflect those more somber moments, and Alan deploys some jazz cues that work wonderfully. There has been a huge variety of composers attached to the Marvel films, and I think Alan has come out on top as the one composer to really nail the superhero score that is needed for an epic story like this. The soundtrack is now available as a digital download and worth adding to your collection. Endgame seems to be on track to be the most successful Marvel movie to date, which is to be expected. I don't think Disney even needed to put that much money into marketing, as it's the big finale of the series. 9 times out of 10 people will turn up without any hesitation. If you put Infinity War and Endgame together, do they work as a 2-part story? Yes, it works extremely well. I think the running time and spreading this story over 2 movies was certainly justified. I will always be the first to put my hand up and admit if a film is too long. Most films you watch that clocking at 2.5 hours or nearly 3 hours, they don't often warrant their runtime, but Endgame gets a pass. As I mentioned, the first act is a little bit too long for things to get moving forward, but by the end that didn't bother me, as I was thrilled by the whole experience. If you've watched all the Marvel films up to this point, Endgame is far more rewarding, but if you missed a number of films along the way, then you may feel less informed, but it shouldn't detract from its entertainment value. I'm intrigued to see how the MCU is going to move forward with Phase 4. With Disney picking up 20th Century Fox, I'm sure we're going to see Fantastic Four and the X-Men make an appearance. Will the next wave of films have the same level of success? Filmmaking is a gamble and you never know what's going to work, but Marvel has been pretty consistent with their output, and despite people claiming superhero burnout, these movies are still making tons of money, and I don't see Disney putting on the brakes anytime soon. I highly recommend Endgame. This may end up being one of the best movies of the year for some. It's rare for me to walk out of a film and have this desire to watch it again. I often feel happy to wait till the Blu-ray comes out or when it comes to streaming, but in the case of Endgame, it's certainly a film that I would happily sit through again as soon as possible. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to see more retrospectives and commentaries. Also click on the bell to be notified of the latest reviews. If you want access to exclusive videos and to watch my content a few days before it's on YouTube, you can head on over to my Patreon. Thank you very much.